find yourself formulating things to do, your mind kind of saying, okay, these are priorities now for me right now?
Yeah, I think that started earlier because understanding that I was going to go through the interview process led me to start really thinking about the ball club from a managerial perspective. So I've been thinking about some things for a long time. What Saturday did more than anything was put me in a situation that every time I would wake up in the middle of the night, I couldn't go back to sleep, because all the things that you think about over the course of a lifetime as a coach are now coming front and center with that opportunity to try to implement some of these ideas. So yeah, it's been kind of a constant.
By just having to go through the interview process, did that give you a chance just to have to think a little deeper about, okay, let's look at things in a more objective way about what happened on the club and what I could do?
Absolutely, because now that you have a little bit more opportunity to have some impact on a new direction. And I think one of the important things also is getting perspective from the players. I mean, you got guys on the field. How did they feel about the season? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? I'd love to get some perspective from our core group of guys, just to see our season through their eyes. There certainly was a disappointment at the end. We expected more.
I would have to think, because you've already been a presence there, they're going to feel comfortable with talking to you and being honest.
Well, I hope so. I hope that I'm approachable. I've always felt that that's a strength. It has been approachability. I like communication. I like people. We're trying to be unified in a common goal. How do we do that? How does everyone succeed? The team succeeds. I think we feel like everyone has succeeded. We know that we had a missed opportunity this year, and I'd love to get some perspective from the players' view on why we did.
Are you a list guy that you start to kind of write down things and say, this is something I have to deal with, and I know this is one of the things I have to do?
Absolutely, yeah. There is an order of things that we need to do leading up to spring training, and certainly putting our coaching staff together, having contact with all the players, and having and creating even further dialogue, in particular with the position players, because most of them I don't speak with in the off season. So now that'll be a regular part of what I do. And just knocking things down, trying to be proactive going into spring training, so these guys arrive in Goodyear with an understanding of what our intentions are, what our goals are, and what our expectations are of the club.
If I could follow up on that, they know you well enough to feel comfortable with you. I always felt it always was good to have a boss that also made you feel a little uncomfortable. So I don't know, there's little both ways it has to work there.
Agreed. I agree, and I think that's the relationship I've had with the pitchers. It's all they're good, and they're positive, and they're productive relationships, but there's an accountability, not simply to performance. Guys aren't going to perform every day. We can't expect these guys to be on the top of their game all the time. If that were the case, we'd be the best team in baseball. We'd be unbeatable. So that isn't the point. The point is that there's a right way and a wrong way to play the game, and I think it's very black and white. I think there's a type of effort and energy you put in and preparation that goes into playing the game of baseball, and we should expect that. We're all employees. We all have an accountability to be good employees, and how do we hold ourselves accountable to those responsibilities?
One of our emailers says he wanted to know what a manager means to the team. I guess what have you seen in the past in an effective manager, what they bring to the game?
I think strength, and I think leadership. I think there's, the manager is the voice of the team. I think the manager is there to defend his club, to motivate his club, and to hold his club accountable to the direction and the way we play. I think creating an identity to your team is very much in the hands of the manager.
This is the greatest game of second guessing I think there is, because you could watch that game that night, and the next day you see the replays and whatever. Are you ready for that? Because you know that regardless of what you do as a manager, people are going to say he should have done this.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, there's always unknowns when you go into something new. I've always felt like I've been able to compartmentalize the emotions of the game. I think as someone that's coached as long as I have, is that you understand that we hold ourselves accountable when things don't go right, even if we weren't on the field. If our pitching staff gives up 6 runs and we lose 6-5, that's a game we should have won. What did we miss in our preparation? Even if there was nothing we could have done any better, there's an accountability to that. So certainly it'll be new. There'll be more criticism. There'll be more people that may disagree with my managerial style, and I understand that.
How badly do you need a leader in the clubhouse? And I look at, people have talked about Scott Rowland in the past, or we see Johnny Gomes, that he seems like he goes, wherever he goes, they just seem to win. And there seems to be an intangible about certain guys like this. Just wondering, if you look at the clubhouse, how badly you need somebody like one of those guys.
I think what we need is for our best players and our iconic players to set the tone to the style of play that the Reds play on a daily basis. And we have iconic players now. I think we can ask a bit more of Joey and Brandon and Jay as guys that can really set tone for us. Ryan Ludwig is, I think, is close to, kind of a clubhouse leader and someone that'll verbalize opinions and feelings and things of that nature. It's typically going to be position players, somebody in the starting rotation that'll hold the rest of the starters and pitchers accountable to their preparation and behavior on the field. I think those are things that we need, and I think they're things that can be developed here. But we just have to set those as goals.
A 90-win team, so it's an awfully good team. You know you're on the verge. I'm guessing, do you search now for what's needed for that push to the next level?
Absolutely. I think a great model I've always thought since it happened for Tampa Bay is the Tampa Bay Rays, because I saw them a lot when they were developing young players that they couldn't win.
Right.
We have strength in the starting rotation. If you don't have strength in your starting rotation, it's really hard to be competitive. We have that. We've got a very good bullpen from our first guy in the game to our last. We've got outstanding core group of players. I think what it's going to come down to is there's certain things we need to do. We weren't a great situational offensive club. We weren't a great base running club. We didn't have a great deal of team speed. We know those things. We know we can improve upon them. And we also have some young players that have yet to hit, I don't want to even say they're primed, but they haven't maxed out their ability yet. And so we're either going to go into this optimistic that the guys that have room for improvement have that ability to do that, or we're going to have to look to find some better players.
Will you fiddle with the batting order at all? I mean, it seems like we've got into this routine that this guy will always bat third, this guy will always bat fourth. Is it something you look at for spring training, or something that you think maybe this guy doesn't have to bat behind this guy?
I think there'll probably be some differences. I certainly think that there'll be some personnel differences as well. I think it'd be very difficult for us to come back with exactly the same ball club, not because we wouldn't want to, but we may not be able to financially. There may be a need to get certain types of players that'll, at the expense of us having to move some of our guys. That, again, is something that I don't have any idea which direction that's going to go. But as far as conforming to any specific thing, I think what we need to do is we've got to put guys in the best position to succeed. I don't think we can continue to spit out the exact same club in the exact same order and expect different results.
I would imagine that same thing with personnel will deal with whether the situation with Aroldis Chapman. But would you like him to know by the time he hits spring training what he's going to do? Yeah,
I don't really want this to become and I know it's a hot topic issue here with us, and which is fine. There'll be a little bit of internal dialogue. This is not something I want to go into spring training with as we did this past year. I think we need to cement his position, his role on the ball club, get him ready to pitch, and hit the ground running with him.
One of our Facebookers, Mike Edmiston, says, seems to be your mantra is accountability. Where was accountability lacking on the 2013 team?
I think more than anything was just the ability to avoid repeat mistakes. I think we made some similar mistakes, and we're all guilty of it. That when we talk about our team on the field, I think everyone looks at that as our 25 players or our starting lineup or whatever. As coaches, we have the obligation to push our players in the direction in which we want them to play, and we made repeat mistakes in every area of our game. And it continued to happen. We didn't address it. We didn't necessarily get better at those issues that we struggled with early in the season, at the end of the season, and it cost us.
Pitching. It's still the name of the game, and you watch these playoffs, it doesn't vary too much. Does pitching have to get better here? Do you have to, or is there an area where you think you can improve on things?
Absolutely. I think just from a maturity standpoint, we're seeing the evolution of Homer Bailey. We've seen the evolution of Johnny Cueto. Certainly having Cueto healthy for a full season changes the dynamic of our rotation. Having Jonathan Broxton and Sean Marshall healthy all season changes the look of our ball club. We had a great year from a pitching perspective with room to improve. Matt Latos is ready to bust out and be that guy that's out there like, teams would look at, a Roger Clemens type guy. He's going to be out there. It's going to be a battle. He's going to be in there every bit of, 110, 115, 120 pitches with great stuff. And he's going to continue to grow emotionally, because where he's vulnerable is when he gets down on himself. So there's plenty of room on all sides of this team to get better.
All these guys are talented. All of them have usually been the best player on their team at some point, whether it's in college or whatever. How do you make sure, and we always hear this time of year, this team has great chemistry. This team, really plays as a team. How do you get that to be the way that happens? Is it just a product of winning, or is actually the chemistry leads to the winning?
Yeah, winning helps. I think anytime you can get people to unite for a common goal, that's a good thing. I think we all have to view it in a similar way on what good baseball looks like, what good preparation looks like. How do we hold each other accountable to this? And how do we create that in the clubhouse? How do we make it more comfortable for one player to go up to the next player and say, hey man, I think there's a better way of doing that? How do we get a greater connectivity between our coaching staff and our players to where we feel united? The thing is anymore is that when you want to explain a better way to do something, a lot of times people take that as criticism. And it's always constructive criticism. We have to be able to constructively criticize or continue to coach these guys to be better, because there's a lot of room for improvement with this group. And you ask anybody, say, would you like to be a better player next year than you were last year? You'd always get the answer would always be yes.
In the last few days, has there been much discussion of personnel here? I'm just kind of wondering if that is what happens at the end of the year as you start to think of next year and try to figure out, okay, how do we reload?
Absolutely. As far as players from other organizations, those are things that are still developing. But first and foremost, we have to look at the guys that we have on our 40-man roster and how are we going to utilize them and maximize their ability. Who is a good fit with this group and who isn't? Who gives us what we need? Who's a little bit short? Where do we have to improve? So looking at what we have here first is I think, the most important thing. Secondarily, who outside of our organization can help plug some holes for us.
Last thing, do you think as a pitching coach, you had a different kind of perspective that you were able to look at maybe these guys in a different way than what the field manager was able to see in the past? Because you're kind of over here, and I'm just wondering if you might have a different take on what these guys give you and what they could give you in the future.
I think we all have our own opinions. It doesn't matter who you are. I think we're all managing the game at the same time. We're all looking at the team through different set of lenses. And so I think that you could ask that of anybody on the coaching staff, is that we all have a different perspective on our club and have a different idea on what we think is going to work and what's going to help our group. I think there was some uniformity within the coaching staff on some of the things that we missed on this year, and certainly with the front office, and I'm going to embrace that and move forward.
Very good. I'll let you go.
Stay where you guys are. You just get a couple of shots.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, my pleasure. What else you got going today?
We still have Bengals.
Yeah,
See whether they're
right,
gonna
5-2, right?
Yeah, got to see if they're going to sell out. It's hard to believe, but they got the Jets coming in here Sunday, and they're still haven't sold out. And Thursday is the noon or 1 o'clock, I think, is the deadline as far as whether the game will be blacked out.
Really? I saw there was a few playoff games. Was it in like Dodger Stadium and maybe in Atlanta where games weren't selling out? Weird.
It's a product of the times right now.
Yeah.
It's tough. I'm from
You got to figure out where the dollars go.
originally, and I think it's, Cleveland had a nice team this year, but they couldn't get
Yeah.
people there, and I think a lot of it has to do with the economy more
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah.